Okay, is everyone good?
Is everyone good? Is me good? Me is good. We can start whenever.
Me is good.
Time's up. Let's do this.
We're in for a wild night.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 213 of Born to be Wild, a wild and wild-adjacent Hearthstone podcast where we have fun, hanging out with friends, talking about the wild and wild-adjacent formats of Hearthstone, and spotlighting members of the wild community. I'm your host, Hydralisk. It's great to be back on this ridiculously hot Friday evening in Vancouver, Canada. I'm joined by my fellow host and best buds, Schmoopydady.
Happy to be back, continuing the pod after going on a brief family vacation.
Nice. Awesome. Well, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/BornToBeWildHS. And the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. However you are watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes. You.
Content plug, Schmoopydady. Before we get into the main topic of the show tonight, I'd like to say a quick thank you to the patrons of our show. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and comment on this video on YouTube. Another simple way to support the show is to leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching live on Twitch, we've got some awesome emotes that you can unlock by subscribing to the channel. This is free if you use Amazon Prime. Finally, if you'd like to support the show financially, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 per month. We have some channels in the Discord that are unlocked by subscribing to the Patreon, where you can see how the show comes together each week. Check it out. If you'd like to interact with us personally, please join our Discord, a free and amazing online community of friends from across the world who love to talk about Wild Hearthstone. Links to all this stuff and more, including our merch, can be found on our website, which is www.borntobewildhs.com. Hydra, how's your week?
My week was pretty good, in all honesty. So, did the show last week, and I didn't get around to editing it instantly. Ended up spending some time with some fam, with my wife. My kid was off on a trip, so my wife and I decided we were gonna try out this brewery down the road. Yeah, we were like kidless, right?
Get 'em
so
out.
there's this place. It's called Patina's. It's actually in walking distance, which is nice. And so we walked down there, and they had fairly priced food and beer, and we had a good time. And she also bought this trivia game that's like interactive that you can do on the TV, and it shows you the movie clips. And man, so it'll show you a movie clip, and it'll say like have Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and let's some other actor. Let's say it's Brad Pitt and Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't even know if they've had a movie together, but so you're like, okay, this movie is, let's call it Shark Tank. This movie is Shark Tank. I got it, right? And then it gets to the trivia question, and they're like, was Jake Gyllenhaal wearing A, Crocs, B, flip-flops, C, moccasins, or D, Skechers? And you're like, what the heck?
I was not focusing on that. Like, what do you mean? And it's probably on the screen for like 0.5 seconds. So like, you literally need to have like just happen to catch that and make that observation.
So it's actually a decent amount of time. It's probably like a 15 to 20 second clip of two people having a conversation, right?
Got you.
So I learned that you need to start memorizing kind of like what's going on, right? So the next time I have one of these questions, I'm like, okay, it's Robert De Niro, and he's got no facial hair. He's cleanly shaved. Hair is parted to the left. No, wait, that's the right. Is that my left or his left? Right? And
50-50 either way.
like trying to memorize everything, and afterwards it's like, who did the soundtrack to this movie? I'm like, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways,
when you say the name patina, it makes me think of another great Canadian export, Paw Patrol, and Farmer Yumi's cow. And so immediately, I'm just assuming the cow's running this place. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, it was nice. I didn't realize Paw Patrol was that popular down in the States.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I find that since you're so close to the border, you're almost like an honorary Canadian. You get
Where I
like,
went to
some of
college, absolutely was honorary Canadian. Trust me. Like we had Molson available. Yeah, we were honorary Canadian. Like the biggest school sport was easily hockey.
Oh yeah.
I know a dangerous amount. I know enough to be dangerous about Canada.
That's cool. Yeah, I totally get that. I had a friend who grew up in New Jersey, and he knew, like, he watched the same channel. Like, we didn't have MTV. We had Much Music, right? But he got Much Music at his house, and we had like all these other shows. This channel called YTV, Youth Television, and it had all these cartoons and stuff on it. He's like, yeah, I totally got that show. Like I am basically Canada. He's calling New Jersey Canada. Sure, close enough, I guess.
It basically was while Berdure was there. So
exactly. So if Berdure chose to be there, it's Canadian. Anyway, so we had a good weekend doing that kind of thing. And after the weekend was over, then I processed the show and posted that. Pirates in Paradise. If you haven't checked it out, check it out now. It's on YouTube and all the podcast apps. So after that, I decided, hey, let's play some Hearthstone. So I think I spoke a little bit about trying the Pirate Shaman. I was playing a Noodles version and did that a little bit more and seeing some success. I was playing it at a 62% win rate. So it's kind of funny because I get this thing in my head where that's low for Wild, even though it's a completely reasonable win rate.
Very reasonable win rate, honestly.
But anyways, I played up.
Climbing.
I played up to Diamond, right? So hit Diamond 9, dropped down to D10 because I was completing some quests and sort of just hit that rank floor. But plan on this weekend jamming up. Gonna try to make a legend run before vacation. I do leave next week, so 1 week from now I am going on vacation Saturday morning, and so hopefully I can get that in because I don't know how much Hearthstone time I'm gonna get because spoiler alert, 2 weeks off of work. Cannot wait for it. So every single year I always take the last 2 weeks of August off. So we're going out to Vancouver Island and we're going to Tofino. And so Tofino, if you don't know, I know some people who are listening, we do have Canadian listeners, that is basically the only place that you can legitimately surf in Canada because our west coast is blocked by a massive island called Vancouver Island. So what you have to do is take a ferry to that island, drive to the other side where almost nobody lives, and then you can surf.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So that's what we're doing.
I do love a good
actually. Yeah, we are friends now. Actually, Mini Hydra and I are registered for surfing lessons while we're over there. So that's going to be cool. They give you a surfboard, a wetsuit, and an instructor for, it's like 3 hours. And it costs, it's not cheap. It's $100 a person for the 3 hours. So if we're going to spend $200 and we get to rent all the gear and get an instructor. So that's going to be cool. They'll teach us the ropes. I've done a lot of boarding sports in general and boarding water sports like wakeboarding or wake surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding, that kind of thing, but never like actual real surfing. So super stoked for that.
You're going to try and see if I'm sure there's a lot of skills that translate that are probably pretty similar, and probably a couple of tricks you're going to have to learn, but like you'll probably get the hang of it, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And then, so if you actually want to, the next day, if we're feeling down for it, you can actually rent all that gear again without the instructor for $60 for the day. You can have all the gear, right? The wetsuit and the surfboard. So, I mean, that sounds like a win. It's provided the weather's good, right?
Are you going to pee in the wetsuit? How many people do you think have peed in the wetsuit by the time you get it?
Thank you for putting that into
I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like, I wouldn't be embarrassed about it, but like, it's a reality.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a reality that I had not considered whatsoever.
I'm a wild
and
player,
so now,
you know,
when I put, I'm gonna say to Mini Hydra after he put it on, like he's gonna put it on, and then I'm gonna say
he's gonna be like,
how many
oh,
people
God,
do you
Dad,
think peed in
no, you'll have you'll have already gone through mourning. You'll have already accepted it, right? You'll be in that stage of acceptance.
I wouldn't be surprised if his answer is, well, at least one, because he's doing it right now. Yeah, so super stoked for that. It's gonna be good. Little touch on my Stephen King corner. I'm so close to finishing Needful Things. It's one of those books that's like super thick, and this one I'm doing audiobook, and out of like 30 hours or 35 hours or whatever it was, I have 3 hours left. So I'm getting really close on that. It's so good. Ari Morin in chats is Needful Things is one of his faves. It's super neat because the entire story is like, no spoilers, but it's building and building and building. There's all these people in this town, and it's creating this slow chaos throughout the entire story. And you're just waiting for the crap to hit the fan. And I'm at the point where the crap is now hitting all of the fans. So it's pretty cool. I'm stoked with that. Ari Moore, we could talk more about it later. It's just so good. And as for, I gave an update last week on Blister Guy and I playing Molten Core in Warcraft Rumble, and how I was stoked to see if we could actually beat it after it was buffed. We had plowed through the first 3 quarters of it, and it being buffed at the end, it's too hard. It's so hard. And I ended up throwing in the towel.
It's too hard.
I felt bad. He was messaging me, and he's like, "You ready to go today?" And I was like, no. Also, I'd spent the weekend doing stuff with my wife and whatnot, so I kind of came back to him on the Monday to see if we could do it. I was like, sorry, bud, like next month when it comes around again. I'm not there. All of his characters are like another 5 levels above mine, and it's close, but we'll get it eventually. We were super close. If they didn't buff it this time around, we would have had it for sure. But unfortunately, that's what happened. Anyway, enough about me. Schmoopydady, how was your week?
Cool. So I weighed in today at 202 pounds, which brings me to like 20 plus pounds lost since vacation started, which is cool. It's just really cool on a personal level.
20? Dude, that's 20 pounds in like 6 to 7 weeks, something like that.
Yeah. I'm doing like an hour a day on the treadmill. I'm aiming for what my machine says is like a 1,000-calorie workout. And I'm also combining that with, again, I'm doing the intermittent fasting, so I'm not eating for 16 hours, then fitting basically whatever I want in the 8 hours. But it's the weirdest thing. By the time I'm hungry up until my window's up, and then I'm like, all right, well, what do I eat now? And like my brain doesn't know how to process like what the next meal should be, which is kind of goofy. So like that's That's
What's your window? What's your time frame?
oh, so like it's I had a coffee with cream in it at like 6:30 because I was falling asleep. So I want to be awake for the podcast. So I'll say like I won't eat until 10:30 tomorrow morning. And so that will in theory, for whatever reason, put my body in fat burning mode in theory. And so then I'll like have an 8-hour window where it's like, okay, so now I don't really keep track of like the 8 hours, but I do keep track of the 16 hours essentially, where it's just like, okay, I'm now not going to eat for 16 hours. And sometimes I do take like the weekend, I'm more likely to take a day off if I want to have like, a couple beers after dinner, or like hang out with the wife or something like that, or hit a brewery. Like I might do that, but I'm gonna see if I can. I can't wait till the school year starts because my lunch period is 10 a.m. anyway. So like this is kind of already sort of lining up with if I'm eating dinner at 5 p.m. This is kind of already lining up with what my day is going to look like, where I'm eating my lunch in my lunch period when I'm allowed to eat food, and also I'm eating dinner super early because my kids get hangry like their mother and start like losing their Skittles if they don't get fed. It's like everybody needs Italian dinner. Like I don't know if you like super Italians will have dinner at like 3 p.m. and then it's like this long course meal, or 4 p.m. is this long like that's like what my wife's like grandmother's Sunday dinner is like. It's like you go over there and you do not ask for seconds of anything. Rookie mood. Do not ask for seconds of anything. You will not make it. You'll implode. You just won't make it. I very stupidly asked for seconds of like meatballs and spaghetti, and I didn't know that like steak and 3 other courses were coming. So just don't ask for seconds. But I wasn't on the pod last week because I had a great vacation. I went down to see my aunt, nice. and her children really only had like one grandchild, and so like my kids are kind of like her pseudo grandkids, and we had a really cool visit.
Gotcha.
And Schmoopy traveled really well. Good for him. He's getting a little older. We got the medication's working. Daughter's easy to travel with. She's being cool. Though it's insidious, we download these episodes of Bluey. My wife downloaded like 100 episodes of Bluey onto her Amazon tablet, right? And we don't really limit the screen time on the travel time, because otherwise, like, the kids are going to be like, you're going to have to scrape them off the window. And so we're driving down there, and it's a long trip. It's a long trip for kids. But like, whenever you watch a downloaded episode, it's like, okay, delete and watch the next episode. And so she's been deleting and watching next episode. So by the time we get to the end of the trip, she's got like 67 episodes. My wife's like, why are you deleting it, daughter? Right? And so, and it's not her fault, because like she's like a trained monkey. She didn't actually read, but she knows what button makes the next Bluey play. So like, she's just like jamming it like the monkey in the typewriter. But it was really cool. My son got to hang out with my cousin's dog, and we got to go to a really cool playground, and my wife and I got to check out some really cool breweries. My aunt lives down in Maryland. We got to do the ferry. The ferry was fun. I love ferries. You can get a beer on a ferry. You can either go up top and like look at the ocean, or you can stay in your car and open the windows and just sort of hang out or pass out, do whatever you want to do. So I love a good ferry. So I had a good vacation. Sorry I wasn't here to contribute, but that was really cool.
Oh man, I'm so stoked for the ferry. So I don't know if it exists or not. I think it's gone, or it depends on which one you get. But I don't know the size of the ferries that you have, but the ones that we take, I feel like I'm on a massive cruise ship. Like, these things are huge.
Oh, okay. And it's probably a little bigger than the one that I'm on. The one that I'm on can probably fit like 40 cars, if I were to guess.
No, is it like a single deck of 40 cars, or is there like multi-layered?
Yeah. So like you drive on and it parks everybody. There are some people who walk on, and then there's probably like, there's like 2 levels. There's like one level that has some covering, and then there's a top level where the bar is. And so like that's where I go to, After a 3-hour drive, that's where I'm waltzing up to go get a beer for myself and my
Yeah.
wife, and then waltzing back down again. Depending on how harrowing the drive it is, I might make that trip twice. But it's the one that I'm doing. I'm doing the Cape May Luz ferry. So it's across. I'm blanking on my geography at the moment, but it's across that freshwater bay where they get all the crabs and stuff. So I'm
Gotcha. You should send me
it's like
pictures.
an hour.
I'd love to see.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely. It's like an hour 45-minute kind of trip. Like it's a long boat ride, but it's like I'm not driving and I'm not in bumper to bumper traffic like I will be in other parts of New Jersey.
Yeah.
So
So what I was getting at, I guess, was I go for the hunt every time to find the arcade on the ferry, right? Because I took a ferry from Vancouver to is it Schwartz Bay? Whatever. It's out on the island. And one time on it, they had a full arcade.
And you were like, holy cow.
I'm going to spend the entire time here, like however long, like 2 hours, whatever it is, in the arcade. And I was playing Gauntlet, and they had a Gauntlet machine. And I'm like, this is so cool. And I was so stoked. And then the next time I took a ferry, it was like a smaller version, and I'm going around and I'm looking, and I couldn't find the arcade. And so I don't take these ferries very often, so I'm going to go on the arcade hunt again.
Gonna hope that it's there. And you have to get the good boat. You have to get the good boat. You don't know how many are in the fleet. I think the one that I take has 3 boats. I've probably at this point been on all of them. So
Gotcha.
Broke my getting to Hearthstone, broke my 2-year streak of getting day 1 Legend and Wild. It was such a weird kind of hostile meta for climbing. Eventually I got there day 4 with Null Rogue. Once I couldn't hit day 1, I basically took day 2 off because we were traveling. So I didn't play any Hearthstone. I logged in for the quest, but I didn't even try to do the daily. I just logged in for the daily. Day 3 put some time in. Day 4 finally hit with Null Rogue, but I couldn't find anything that was really working for me. Pirate Demon Hunter felt very strong, but very 50-50 into other aggro decks. Shadow Priest felt like when you high rolled, you were a god. When you low rolled, you sucked. And so I couldn't mentally stay with that. Skipper Warrior wasn't working for me because there were enough Pirate DHs. I swear, Pirate DH is the kind of deck that poses a really unique problem to control decks because it makes a bunch of nothing boards, low effort, wide boards that the opponent has to answer. Because if they don't answer, immediately you can start dropping resources like Roughhouser or South Sea Captain or Field of Strife, or especially with Kurtrus up. That's just an absolute beating's worth of damage. And so you have to keep if you're a control deck and you're playing Pirate Demon Hunter, you have to keep answering board after board after board after board. And so I tried to do Skipper Warrior, which would normally clean up most of the decks that I was playing it against, but I'm queuing into Raza Priests, and that's a long slog of a matchup, and I'm queuing into Pirate Demon Hunter, and that's a 50-50 proposition for a control deck. So I just found eventually that I ran out of steam. The highest I got was D2 that day. So 2 years broken. I've already gone through the 5 stages of grief. There was denial and anger. I did some bargaining. And then finally I made my way to acceptance. I'll try it again next month. The change in MMR post D5, once they did that, I kind of knew the writing was on the wall that I couldn't just hard counter aggro or aggro bots like I was to keep the streak going, and it was going to get harder, and it did get harder. And so, is what it is. Last couple months have been slogs. This was a sloggier slog, and I didn't get there, but whatever. We'll try again next month. But
in all honesty,
yeah,
it was just that run, 2 years of day 1. That's ridiculously impressive for day 1. It honestly is, because I know that you know how to do it every single time. You know what to target, and you can just get there, but that doesn't solve all your problems. huge commitment, and you were doing it for an extremely long time. And the fact that you went this long is already crazy to me. So congratulations.
So it was like 2 years and 3 months, if I'm counting right. So like, I almost got there. But we had some good things happen too. I got another 12-win arena run. Right now, I was playing like a warrior. I was calling it Burn Warrior because it was a warrior mage, and I had like 3 Firelands portals and 2 Sunset Volleys, and like those cards are just very, very, very good in arena. And my legendary was the orb that repeats all your spells. So like I'd get in a fire and make sure that it targets like the opponent. So like I'd get in a fireball, I'd get in a molten rune, I'd get in like whatever the what was the spell? The 5-mana spell from like Festival where it makes 2 dudes, right? And so I'd get in a Sunset Volley, I'd get in a Firelands Portal, and I would just rip the orb. And like if they were anywhere near at half health, they were probably dead or in a position where they couldn't do anything to me. And so I went 12-2 on that, and that was really cool. Arena feels fun. Arena, like if you enjoy Wild or even like Wild of maybe a couple years ago, you probably like Arena now. Once you figure out the meta is basically like draft draft Death Knight and Mage. For me, especially Mage, and just go hee hee ho ho and like burn their faces off. There's some really like the good deck lists I find have a really low curve, and not only that, there's a lot of damage from hand, and there's a lot of like really swingy turns. So it's actually a pretty cool power level. That I'm enjoying it. And I usually do this where it's like, I'm playing a lot of Wild, but I'm also like playing some arena runs here and there to just sort of, I like having as large a gold card collection as possible, and this is a great way to sort of get resources and get copies of cards so that when cards get nerfed, I get more dust, which I think is a nice little transition to this week's news.
Welcome to the news. The news is so good. Well, the other day we had our happy, red and green circle day. There's no real point, I guess, in going over the red and green circles themselves because the patch 30.0.3 was announced at this time that it was launching the next day, and that next day was yesterday. So let's hop in to patch 30.0.3. I'm just going to read the little intro that they have here. It's kind of the standard thing that they say each time. Standard thing that they say each and every time. It's the dev comment at the beginning states, since the launch of insert expansion here, but this time it's Perils in Paradise, we've been happy to see a lot of evolving strategies, but we think there's still room for more and new interesting cards to get a chance to shine. Our main goal with this patch is to add more competitive options from Perils in Paradise. We're doing that by curbing a few cards that are showing up too often and by buffing some new cards that have room to improve. We'll see how the meta reacts to these changes and make further adjustments if needed in about 3 weeks. So that's kind of neat. They're looking at a 3-week window. So we can look forward to that. So I figure we can go through these, and there's going to be only a few that kind of really touch on Wild, but let's why not? Let's go through it. So the first one that we have, so we're going to do is first go through what has been nerfed, and then we'll transition into what has been buffed. So the first card that we have here is the Hydration Station. So old version was resurrect your 3 highest cost taunt minions, which I'm sure a few of you have experienced this happen. The new version is resurrect 3 of your different highest cost minions. So no duplicates on this one. Schmoopydady, thoughts?
Nerf to Mill Druid. Good change. Like the obvious thing is like this is a standard nerf because like warriors would get one unkill axe down and then that's it. They can just bring it back like umpteenth times and make people rage quit and uninstall Hearthstone. But like I'm gonna kind of like keep it pretty wild centric. This is like I mostly saw this card seeing play in Mill Druid, and this nerfs Mill Druid. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, Mill Druid enjoyers. Nobody really likes playing against a Mill
Nobody likes you playing Mill Druid.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Or
you play Mill Druid, probably you don't like anybody else either. So like that's fair. That's fair.
I think I tried the Mill Rogue archetype like a long time ago.
You poor lost soul.
And because I was so frustrated that someone was deleting all my cards, and I was like, I'm gonna do that to somebody else. See how
Really good
like
Mill Rogue players made you think that like it's a good deck. It's not.
Yeah, and so I played it for a while, and I got a lot of people adding me and getting angry. So I stopped.
Cool.
And that's only when I actually won. We're not saying that I was I wasn't a professional at it, but all right. So the next card we have here is Inventor Boom. So the text used to read, resurrect 2 friendly mechs that cost 5 or more. They immediately attack random enemies. The new text now says the exact same thing, except they've deleted the word immediately. What's the difference there, Schmoopydady?
Oh man, it's so confusing and no, this is just another like it's the same kind of nerf. They don't want Boom bringing back more unkill axes, especially post Deep Miner Bran, where his battle cry is doubled. So in some cases, Boom would be bringing back 4 copies of unkill axe. Which are immediately spraying and praying and attacking the board and attacking stuff and like so that doesn't happen anymore. This is a nerf to the oppressive tier 3 Reno Warrior, which was playing this card, or you could see it as an opportunity to not just run Uncle Axe, but run something like Juggernaut, which post Deep Miner Brand can shuffle up to 3 gigantic mines into the deck, and then you're bringing back Unkill Ox and another Juggernaut that will trigger another mine. So, like, I don't know, you could have some fun with this. I saw Martian Boo playing a Reno Excavate Warrior with this as one of the payoffs with just, like, larger mechs, other mechs that were big, and it looked fine. So, like, this is mostly, again, a nerf that lightly touches wild, more of a fringe archetype. Nothing to really write home about.
Yeah, so the exact same wording, basically resurrect 2 different friendly minions.
Yeah,
exactly
the card works the same. They deleted
different.
They deleted
Why
immediately, but
that means nothing, right?
No, it's just a throwaway word. Yep.
There just wasn't enough text on the card, the text room, I guess, space.
Yeah. So they're trying to fit it on
to keep
there.
that word immediately, because when I saw this, I was looking at like, what does that mean?
What is that?
Like,
yeah, no, it still operates exactly the same. And what's funny is I will never defend Hearthstone card language because I'm not that good a lawyer. And sometimes there is inconsistencies with how it's written, or like they were written by different people, but they mean the same thing. And like playing the cards, you end up learning that. But looking at other card games, Hearthstone actually does a pretty good job of being somewhat concise and clear. You look at some card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! The joke is Yu-Gi-Oh! Players don't read. They just figure out how their card works and they just play their card because like the text is like an essay on the card, right? And then it's very funny when it's like the card's a full art and then now there's nothing to read. I guess you're just playing the card. But Hearthstone actually does a decent job of this, even though there are inconsistencies. So the immediately I think like didn't have to exist in the first place, and they just cleaned it up here.
You bring out like an interesting point. So I was relating this to my work so Hearthstone's been around for 10 years at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And so whoever wrote the text on this probably didn't write the text on a card from 7, 8, 9 years ago, right? And I experienced this exact same thing at work where we've got like a team of, instrumentation engineers and assemblers and stuff, and they have zero idea of how somebody did it 10 years ago. They're just doing it now.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody who's been there for 10 years can come up and be like, oh, well, what we used to do was this. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hold on, bud. There's no database or anything that shows that. Right. So like, I'm sure there isn't like this Hearthstone. How do I word this chat GPT thing that they're using or whatever it is to make sure they word it correctly? There's probably they're just doing it
they're
from
just
the best
doing it
of
by
their
hand.
knowledge.
And not only that, but like, you'll get some great pedantic conversations on Twitter between some members of the community being like, well, if you wanted to do this or better reflect it, we should update the text to look like this. And like, that's great. And I think that that is meaningful and does have meaning within the community. But like, for me, it's like, you heard me use Reddit voice. Like, for me, it just sort of looks pedantic and annoying, but like there is a point behind it. And I should be less mocking of it. But but I do find it pedantic and annoying. So like that's I guess on me. Going to be upfront
So
about
you basically hit the nail on the head. But from the devs, they say Hydration Station and Inventor Boom are adjustments to reduce repetitive and meta warping gameplay around the Virus Perfect Ziliax combination, sometimes called Unkiliax. While this Ziliax is powerful on its own, it isn't proving to be a problem outside of decks that can repeatedly resurrect multiple copies of it. These changes will make that play pattern weaker and less repetitive. Well, speaking about Ziliax and these nerfs not directly affecting Ziliax, well, we've got one that does. So the next is Ticking Module. So Ticking Module has gone from 5 mana, costs 1 less for every minion in play, every minion in play. It now is 4 mana. Cool. Hey, that's cheaper, but it costs 1 less for each friendly minion. So when you had that swarmy opponent that wasn't really thinking that maybe you had Ziliax in hand and get the upper hand on them, that's no longer going to work because you're now only relying on your board for this. So this is still good, right? Like if you're a swarmy deck and you can pull this off, you're still going to buff everything. It's still going to be great, but you can no longer rely on this in the mirror match when they're flooding their board. What do you think, Schmoopydady?
Yeah, usually you'd attach this to either the one that gives all your minions +1/+1, or you'd attach it to the perfect module, which was the Divine Shield Rush, Lifesteal, and so you'd have like a 10 mana 4/5 taunt lifesteal rusher that was predicted when Ziliax was first revealed to be probably the most popular module and like a good anti-aggro tool. That concept's dead. You can't, like, you're not playing that in a slow deck anymore, which means a slow deck is probably still playing like Unkillax or what some people sometimes refer to as Smorkulax, which is like the one that deals like 3 damage to yourself, and it's like it's like a 4 mana like 7 something, and it's 5/7, and its attack keeps doubling. I played with the more aggro friendly, like buff a wide board version of the Ziliax. It felt a little easier to get down because of the 1 mana cheaper. Half the time you are playing it in a swarmy deck anyway, so it felt okay in, let's say, like Pirate Demon Hunter, where you're making nice wide boards fairly regularly. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to still make the cut. Like people are jokingly calling it Raid Leader Ziliax. Like, I don't know if it's going to make the cut in Wild, but it felt okay. But that anti-aggro version of Ziliax, which some people were playing occasionally in like Reno Priest or something like that, that is dead. That doesn't exist anymore. So like this has fringe effects on Wild. Nothing really that like jumps out at me and says, "Oh, by the way, like this is huge." This is, you know, I've heard some people say that Ziliax is unplayable in Wild now. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'm still waiting. One more nerf. I said when Ziliax came out, I predicted 5 nerfs. So we've seen 4. So we need one more.
Honestly, it's kind of like the 31st card in any aggro swarmy deck, right? If you want to throw it in, you can. Like, it's not...
Now it was. Before it was definitely like you'd keep it in the mulligan. Like it was really good.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Now I'm not sure. Like we were cutting it from Garrote Rogue to put in more pirates. Like a single copy of Full A Fighter turned out better in Garrote Rogue than Ziliax. I don't think you might run it in Pirate Rogue, like you could, or you could just like run more pirates. Like I think it'll be around, but it's not as good, and we'll wait and see. Odd Paladin stumps.
Up until this, I still had it in Pirate Rogue. I can see how it performs from here, but I really was taking advantage of all the mirror matches with it, right?
Yeah.
And that was what put this over the edge and made it good. Like actually good. So
now it becomes more like win more, right? Like you're already winning, and this is just sort of so maybe
at this point,
maybe it's not worth. We'll see. I could see that.
Yeah. All right. So just a quick dev comment on that. And on the other end of the spectrum, ticking pylon Ziliax combination has continued to be very popular in more aggressive board flooding decks. Perils in Paradise added some great board building cards, and now this Ziliax is a bit too much of a good thing. Boo. This change makes the card a little less powerful in those decks and also shifts the play pattern so that Ziliax no longer punishes other board-centric decks for fighting back on the board. All right, so next one is a card I've actually never run in any deck, but it's been nerfed. So Lamplighter used to be a 3-mana 3/2. It is now a 4-mana 3/3. So if you don't recall,
4/3.
Lamplighter is a 4/3 for 4 mana, deal 1 damage, and that's improved by each turn in a row you've played an elemental. So elemental deck card. Any thoughts?
I was really enjoying it in my Kalimos OTK. 4 mana is not that much more expensive than 3, so it's a little harder to make it 0 and bounce it, but not that much harder. Fringe playable in Wild. Great payoff for noob like elemental curvestone decks in Standard, which initially looked like they were going to be like oppressive and nerfed at the off, and then like people figured out how to beat them because they weren't that good. And so, like, they're still, like, fine, but this card seemed a little too strong, and so they think of it as, like, Shock Spitter, but, like, Shock Spitter that you charge up instead of attacking, you're just playing elementals. And a lot of elementals make your elementals cheaper, or you can have elementals that bounce elementals. So, like, this in combination with something like Scar, I think Kalimos is in core, but nobody was playing Kalimos. And again, we have more options for discounting it, where you could run Corrupt the Waters and double Battle Cries. It's fringe change to Wild. Tier 4 decks are playing this. It's not really that big a deal.
Well, I haven't run into it yet, but now I probably won't. I don't know. We'll see. But the devs basically said that, and this is a neat sort of comment, I guess, is they love that it successfully brought multiple decks in the archetype to the meta, but it's turned out to be too strong. This should make it slower and clunkier. So it's kind of funny because this is sort of what this balance change at the top said is what we're trying to do is get cards like this, to come into the meta, things that don't normally see play. So it's kind of like they're with this one, actually hits exactly what they want, is to bring an archetype that isn't seeing play, to the forefront. Now it's a cool thing, but I guess it served its time. They want to make it a little bit slower and give opportunities to something else.
Yeah, as a larger issue that Standard has had, the old stuff has still been good enough to play, so people have not really explored the new stuff a ton, which is why you see a ton of buffs with this patch as well. One of the new things was like Lamplighter Rogue, where people were using Shadow Step and Breakdance to play a Lamplighter and then bounce it and then play a Lamplighter. And now when it was 3 mana, you could copy it with New Sonya and get a free Lamplighter after you played your Lamplighter. And so like people were just dying from hand after after basically like, curved stone elementals to like, oops, you're dead in Rogue. And so people were sick of that, I guess. And this is their response to that.
Feels bad. Nerf it. All right.
Yeah.
So Concierge has been nerfed. So the change here is just the mana cost. So Concierge is the 4 mana 3/4 pirate that states your cards from another class cost 1 less.
This nerf has rubbed some people the wrong way in the WoW community. This is basically a nerf solely because of Seabreeze Chalice. Seabreeze Chalice is that 1 mana mage drink that deals 2 damage. Chalice Druid in Standard is like a ramp druid, tempo druid that had Concierge as a way to deal burst damage from hand along with Chia Drake and some spell damage, and then you just sort of pop off with this. The problem is this kind of nerf bumping it up 1 mana, making it more expensive, has kind of prevented this from being playable literally anywhere except for Druid running Seabreeze Chalice. So like you'd slap a bunch of like cheap 0-cost Paladin cards onto a Flamewaker or Concierge with Flamewaker up, and you'd like nuke an opponent from orbit. Or you could put this in other classes, basically 3 mana 4/3, 3 mana 3/4, and discount your stuff, and it was cool. And now it's probably literally unplayable except for Druid Chalice decks, which is why a lot of people I think have the feeling of like, well, if the Chalice interaction is the issue, why didn't you just make Chalice cost one more mana? That would solve a couple problems. So that's some feels bads there. Chia Drake is the next card. They've changed it from a 3/5 to a 2/4. The reason why I just do it like right on the back of it, because again, it's the same deck that they're nerfing, which I think is in the dev comment. Chia Drake was seeing play in Wild and Reno Druid. It will continue to see play in Wild in Reno Druid because it's basically like 2 cards that are dragons that are drawing cards, and you're already playing like Breath of Dreams or whatever to dragon in hand, you want to boost up a mana, well, you can still play that card. So because it's a Dargon, so it's activating the list. So cool. So like they thought it was a little bit too much tempo. Whatever, that's fine. Again, these changes are sort of on the fringes of Wild. They do impact some stuff. It does feel like they are sort of hedging away at, I said there's a bunch of really cool tier 3 stuff that's like viable right now. And a couple of things like Pirate Demon Hunter that's sort of broken that mold and is like arguably tier 1. But mostly this expansion has been fun adding to the Pantheon of Wild as opposed to like breaking it in half or really imposing itself on Wild. Nerfs like this stuff is kind of chipping away at that and kind of weakening decks that can't afford to be weakened. So that's a little upsetting about this patch, but a lot of it's irrelevant.
Well, let's move on to cards that have been adjusted to be stronger. So sort of same comment that we expect is from the devs that we get when certain cards, just don't hit the mark they thought were going to. They say, we've noticed that some of the archetypes from Perils in Paradise didn't land where we wanted them to. We normally don't do buffs in the first patch after an expansion, but since we gave ourselves more time for this patch, we have more confidence to take a few swings at underperforming cards and archetypes from Perils in Paradise. We hope these buffs will open up some new and exciting options for players. Rycleaver has been buffed. So it was 7 mana. And with a base weapon and 2 mana minion sandwich, it is now 5 mana base weapon and a 4 mana minion sandwich. Do you think this change with this 2 mana is going to make a huge difference?
Friends don't let friends play Big Warrior. You just don't. Just don't, chat. Don't play Big Warrior. This is going to encourage more Big Warrior. I'd say of all the cards in like the Mimi community, of all the cards this expansion, Rycleaver is by far the darling of the casuals. They can't get enough of this card. So this buff is a straight, copium to the veins of the meme community. I hope to God it's not good, because it's basically Big Priest. It's basically Big Priest. There's ways to tutor the weapon. There's ways to discount the weapon. There's ways to get the weapon out, and then you just have to pay a very reasonable amount of mana for the sandwich, and you'll still have some mana left over probably to do something dumb. I hope it's not good, but people will freaking love it. That's all I can say. It's just going to make people send in Big Warrior decks. And Big Warrior sucks. Please don't send me Big Warrior decks. Please. Friends don't let friends play Big Warrior.
Well, you know that you're just inviting it at this point, right?
I know my Malding is just inviting it. Absolutely.
So you heard it here first. Everybody, when Schmoopydady does his next stream, I don't know if you're streaming after this episode tonight or...
I might. Don't do that.
Please submit Big Warrior to at Schmoopydady.
No, don't, please.
Well, come on, it's gonna be good, right?
No.
So don't you want to win? Don't you want to win?
No, you're gonna play the Rycleaver, and then somebody's going to play Theo and steal half your sandwich, and now you're both going to have an unplayable half a sandwich. I remember, I think it was Ben Heathstone was like, I can't wait to. I hope I hope Rycleaver is good so that we see that happen in Wild. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be good. It's happening. It happened hour 1, possibly minute 1. Of Perils in Paradise dropping. Like, a Theatar stole half a sandwich and made some poor Big Warrior grumpy somewhere on the ladder. Like, it doesn't have to be good to see play. That's never stopped anybody in Wild. Anyway, I'm getting upset about Rycleaver again.
I don't know why I'm blanking. What's the name of the stinking pirate that steals the weapon?
Sticky Fingers. Yes, also Sticky Fingers is also I think that's actually what he was talking about. It was Sticky Fingers, not Theatar. It's like, I can't wait for somebody to Sticky Finger Rycleaver, and then both players have an unplayable sandwich. And I'm like, that's already happened. You sent the tweet. The card hasn't come out yet. It's already happened. It doesn't have to be good in order for it to happen. That's never stopped anybody in Wild.
I got Sticky Fingered yesterday, and I was like, Is Sticky Fingers back right now?
No, it's not. It's not.
Well, somebody left. Saw. It is not a card.
How else am I going to beat Kingsbane? Shut up, chat. No, you can beat Kingsbane. You don't need Sticky Finger to beat Kingsbane. All right, we'll see.
I think I played Sticky Fingers when it first came out for like a week or whatever, and then it was just this card that didn't need to be in my deck. So I don't remember who said it, but I really took it to heart, where tech cards are just weakening your build, right? Like, you should be building to what your win condition is, and when you're filling your deck with these tech cards, then you're just like, you're not gonna get to where you want to be very efficiently. And I understand if the meta is absolutely full of something, then sometimes it's appropriate, but
which is the sign of a really messed up meta, by the way. If tech cards are policing or being a player in a meta, like the metas, I would use more coarse language if it was my own stream, but this is born to be wild. So the meta is not in a good spot if, like, let's say Tight-Lipped Witness is seeing a lot of play. That is a bad sign. That is a bad sign.
I think the tech card I saw the most of in my history of playing Hearthstone was Eater of Secrets. I've seen so many of those.
It's bizarre.
Back in the day.
It's bizarre. And you still see people running it, and what's bizarre about it is it's not even good. It's not even the best secret tech. Like, play Tight-Lipped Witness. It's 1 mana less. It's like, if you just tempo it out, it's a 3 mana 2/5. It's a better body. Like, it's just so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Yeah. All right. Who's next? All right. Ranger Gilly. The only thing that changed about this Hunter Legendary is that it is now 5 mana. No longer 6 mana. So not seeing enough play. Let's make it cheaper. Hopefully more people will play Ranger Gilly. If you've forgotten what Ranger Gilly is, that is the Warrior Tourist. At the end of your turn, get 2/3 Crocalisks. Death Rattle, give all minions in your hand +2/+3. I remember we had a funny conversation about this this card on a previous episode, which is why I started laughing when we were talking about the Crocs. But yeah, okay, maybe
bad.
people will
still bad.
Play
still bad. Nope.
the card.
Nope.
Maybe.
The only reason you might run Ranger Gilly is if you're a Rye Cleaver enthusiast, which friends don't let friends play Big Hunter. Don't do it, chat. Don't do it to me. Okay?
Or you're like an 8-year-old and this is the one legendary you opened and it's been unplayable, and then now you're like,
still unplayable.
okay, I can play this on turn 4 with a coin.
Hey. It's not even good in Arena. Like, sometimes you'll randomly generate it in Arena.
It's
and it's
not
like,
even
that's
good
fine.
in Arena.
That's fine if it's randomly generated in Arena. If this is like one of your, like, the best choice for your starting legendary, like, you must have gotten, like, I don't know. This is not a legal card in Arena right now, but like Shifter Xeris and like Duskfallen Aviana. Like, if this is your best option, you might as well just concede the run. It's gone down the tubes.
Well, rip Ranger Gilly.
Oh, it's actually, you can't even, you know what? They don't even have tourists to start in Arena. So there you go.
Oh, well.
I forgore that part, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
whatever. Still bad, right?
Still bad.
Razzle Dazzler.
Oh boy.
Same thing as our buddy Gilly up here. Is the Dazzler, Dazmanaz, is now 1 mana cheaper. So if you do not know, the Razzle Dazzler is a 6 mana 4/4 Naga in the Shaman class. That is Battlecry, summon a random 5-cost minion. Repeat for each spell school you've cast this game. So no one was playing this at 7 mana. No one will continue
to play this. I'm just kidding.
No one was playing it.
Super Based loves this card, and he doesn't know why. It's somebody in my chat on my THL team loves this. It sounds cool. It was initially cut from Spell School Shaman. It may be back in Spell School Shaman, 1 mana cheaper. I don't know. He had a wild deck for it that he posted in my Discord that was apparently like decent. He took it undefeated from like D10 to D3. It just looked like Control Shaman with like Razzle Dazzler as the like and Shutterwalk as the payoff. Like, nothing crazy.
And you could do it twice or more times, but
yeah. Like you know, you just
right?
flood the board. Like Lightning Storm, Elemental Destruction, maybe a Wind Chill or 2. Baking Soda Volcano. Why did they print Baking Soda Volcano? Right? Like why did they print that card? I hate that card so much. Baking Soda Volcano. The fact that it has Life Seal infuriates me. It actually infuriates me that that card exists. That being said, like you could make a control shaman with this and throw it down there and then like repeat its battle cry with Shudderwock and like whatever. Like yeah, I mean I'm sure you could do that, but that's like a tier 4 deck. Right? That's not a good deck in Wild. So this is again doesn't really impact Wild. But it's a fun tool that people like. It's another sort of fun tool if you're a casual and you like deck building and you want to do something a little different. This expansion is great for that, and this does buff that kind of take.
All right, so if you're listening and are going to watch Schmoopydaddy's next stream, please send in a deck request for his listener decks to play Spell School Shaman, including Razzle Dazzler.
I don't like how I'm being trolled this episode. This is just setting minefields. And the thing is, like, people will listen to this like a week on. I'll be getting like these strange requests for decks for months after the fact. Like, it's not like there's going to be a rush of Big Warrior and then everybody's going to remember, oh yeah, Big Warrior sucks. I'm going to have people dribbling and drabbling in and being like, Shmoopy, play Big Warrior. I heard the Born to Be Wild episode. And I'll be like, that was 3 weeks ago. And like, yeah, I haven't seen you play it though. And I'll be like, son of a bitch. So like, that's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely amazing. So what other cards can we make him play? All right. So the next buff card was natural talent. The old version was get a random Naga and a random spell, cost 1 less. New text says get a random Naga and a random spell. They cost 2 less. Okay, cool. Generate some stuff, and they're cheaper than they used to be. I mean, I guess before...
But it's random, not discover. So it's like, it's not... It's probably, it might be okay in standard because like the pool that it's like pulling from might be a little bit more curated. This is the kind of card that like... This is actually the kind of card that I don't like exists because once it rotates to Wild, you're basically never getting back the experience you had with the card. Like I'll take if like for Deca Lunacy, right? Like Lunacy Mage had very specific hits in standard when it was good that you were like, okay, I really want to hit these cards. And Deca Lunacy will never have that experience in Wild. So it's almost like these cards have such a limited shelf life for the experience that you're going to get for them. I think it's like kind of sad and like unfortunate design. I won't call it bad design, but I find it unfortunate design. Yeah. Also won't see play in Wild. This thing is dog water.
In a vacuum, hear me out. In a vacuum, if you're just looking at this card, it costs 3 mana. And then discounts 2 mana off of the things that you get, right? So in theory, it's a 1 mana card prior to the buff. So now it's 3 mana, and each thing you get costs 2 mana less. So this is actually quote unquote mana cheat. Like it's a -1 mana cost card.
It's a great arena. Point. It's a great arena card. Right, but again, that's a very curated pool. You're basically it's helping to develop card advantage. It's helping you generate resources. And honestly, a lot of times in Arena, if you're discovering or generating, those extra cards are often better than the cards you've put in your deck more times than not. So like, or at least they add another dimension, or the pool is so small that you're going to hit good things. Like I think it might be a good. I think it might be a good arena card. It's like, I don't know. Azalea Akari in chat is saying it might be good at this expansion, but it sucks next expansion. Yeah, like it's like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
People are going to too much time on too much time on natural talent. So this is nature. I feel like that could be one of the spell schools for Razzle Dazzler.
We have like clears and
No. This has to be it. We're going to include this one in it. Let's start. Someone open Deck Builder. Okay. I'm a little bit kidding, but also
But also it's going to
not.
happen. Yeah.
All
You have
right.
lightning
So
storm. You have elemental destruction. You better manage your spells.
let's move on to buttons. So buttons is the exact same, other than it's cheaper and it's a 4/4 instead of a 5/5. So it used to cost 5 mana, now it costs 4 mana. And if you forget, buttons is the shaman tours for DK. Battlecry, draw a spell of each spell school.
Yay.
What do you figure?
People are sniffing this to tutor Grave Strength in triple Unholy DK. So it'd be a 4/4 draw 1. Not real exciting. Maybe in a rainbow, it's getting your Corpsicle and I don't know, another card. Okay. It's not really exciting people. It's even now.
I think there's potential. Yeah.
It's even now, which is a plus because that even hero power is very good into pirates, and pirate decks are very big right now. So like, he might see more play, but I think you just run better cards. And I don't know what shaman cards you'd really want. Maybe if it's the shaman tourist, maybe you do like, I don't know, you do like molten drinks, the molten one, that deals the AOE. And also goes phase, but there's no really good spell damage or way to get spell damage in Death Knight, so probably not. I don't know. It's a weird one. That's fine. Maybe it's gonna be good like next expansion when we get like another like more cards in Death Knight. Maybe buttons rounds out by the time it's like a 6-set meta. Maybe buttons is the nuts. In standard, in wild, unless nah, chief.
Okay, so hear me out on this one, all right? Because I'm just gonna say that this card. Think a very, very long time ago. So a very, very long time ago, people used to run Azure Drake, which cost 5 mana. And you would draw one card. You got one card, and it was understated, right? If this card existed, like, back in the day, it would be broken.
Nuts.
4 mana. So cheaper and potential to draw 3. Like, if you could run this, let's say, like, in Mage or whatever back in the day, and you just drew 3 cards or even 2, a 4 mana 4/4, absolutely broken. But
busted.
Looking at it now, it's like meh, which is so funny to me because on paper it's broken when you think about what it could potentially do, but going into the meta and what we have,
it's turn 4. You're passing turn 4 in a deck that can't really afford to pass turn 4. Like, you could be playing, instead of playing this, you could be playing, like, you know, Horizon's Edge and, like, getting the Edge started. And even that's, like, a little bit dicey, right? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I was just giving credit where credit's due.
Yeah, hell yeah. You can play hell yeah. Yeah, You might also tutor I don't know. You could do like Corpsicle and maybe Down with the Ship or something. Like, I don't know. Like, you could draw a couple cards with this, but I don't think it's very good. And I don't know if access to the Shaman set for Perils of Paradise is really doing anything for DK either. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to sit down and look, but like, I haven't seen it, so I'm assuming not.
Yep. All right, well, let's see what we have next, and that is Cruise Captain Laura. So this one is just a mana discount, basically. Cruise Captain Laura, if you don't remember, is the Druid 6 mana, well, was 7 mana, 4/5, Battlecry, summon 2 random locations, is now 6 mana instead of 7. And it's a pirate Druid, woohoo! Yeah, this just seems like garbage, and still potentially, I don't know.
Corbett claims this card is good. He's like, I really like this card. People are going to enjoy that this card is good. I think maybe the standard location pool is curated enough that there's a chance this is like a good value card. I don't want this in my Reno Druid for the same reason I don't want Reastraza in my Reno Druid. Well, wait a second, Schmoopy. Everybody plays Reastraza in Reno Druid. I don't play Reastraza in Reno Druid because board space and hand space are issues in Reno Druid. Mm-hmm. I want to combo off with my Astalor combo, and Reastraza takes up 2 spaces immediately. And then I have to play the crap from hand, or else I don't want Reastraza in my Reno Druid, right? Especially if a location can just get deleted by Reno Lone Ranger anyway. This is giving me 2 locations that can get deleted by Reno Lone Ranger, and it's random, and there's more bricks. There's more. I actually went through. The bricks aren't that bad in Wild, and the high rolls are kind of nuts. Like, you can get, like, Construct Quarter, and, like, I don't know. Like, the discard location might be kind of sweet if you're, like, needing some card draw. But, like, this is the kind of buff that just seems pointless to me because the card is so bad. Like, this is, like, a nothing buff because the card is that bad. Like, I think it's cool design, and like how much do you actually value a location? How much mana do you need to slap on to a 4/5 body in order to represent like the value that are actual like good value for like that having 2 locations adds? I don't know, but you know, I think this needs to be at least 5, maybe 4 to see any kind of play in Wild. Maybe in any format. I'm never picking this in Arena. This sucks. I would pick Gilly before this card. And that's... I can't pick Gilly because they don't offer Taurus, but you get my point. I don't know. We were given some, you know, we are given a little bit of heads up and some feedback as to like, hey, what buffs are, you know, this is what we could do. And my feedback on this specifically was like, if you just put this to 6, like Reddit's going to meme on you because it doesn't look like it's good enough. Like why? Also still not like enough of a push for it to really move the needle. But maybe I'm an idiot, which is like absolutely could be the case. And Corb is right. And this card's the nuts. I don't think it's any good.
Maybe it's because there's legendary locations coming out, Schmoopydady, and they're absolutely broken.
Sure. Great. Yeah. Maybe they're going to print new cards, and there's going to be Captain Lenora support, and I'm going to look like a big doo-doo dumbhead. But I don't think so. I think this card sucks. And I'm grumpy about it.
No, I agree. All right. So... all right, so I like this card, by the way. Tsunami.
Okay.
We had a lot of fun with this card when
Tsunami,
we were playing on the Theorycraft stream. So basically, it used to read 8 mana, summon 3 3/6 water elementals that freeze. They attack random enemies. Now it costs 10 mana, and it summons 4 water elementals that freeze, and then at the end they attack random enemies. So you're paying 2 mana for how much is a water elemental? 4 mana.
4 mana.
Like a regular water elemental is 4 mana. So you are paying 2 mana for 1 extra water elemental at this point. But I think it being 10 mana that's a huge jump. I know you get the extra thing.
Yeah, I thought when they were buffing it to 8 mana with an extra water elemental. That's what I thought too. I didn't realize it was getting buffed to 10 mana. I don't like it at 10 mana. I understand we have King Tide, and King Tide makes it 5 mana anyway, and it doesn't matter. And I have, you know, chat saying, oh, well, it's going to help, you know, Belinda draws. I don't think you run Belinda in Big Spell Mage anymore. Like, I don't think that's a thing you can afford to do in Wild.
Did we see like an interim version of it that it said 8 mana? Summon
I don't
4
remember.
or something? Because
I don't remember.
I thought the exact same thing as you, because seeing it 10 now, I'm like, what?
Maybe they were scared if they didn't add mana to it. I don't know. Again, this is like Big Spell Mage is real bad. People love it. I actually got a great copy pasta out of it. Yesterday in Martian's Discord, somebody posted in all caps, "I like deck, but keep dying to aggro." And they spelt dying with I and E. And so like it actually made me laugh out loud because like I absolutely felt the energy and I get it because I tried to make the deck good. It's just, you can't. And I don't think upgraded Tsunami makes it good either. Maybe it's playable in standard, but I don't think there's like enough. I don't think there's enough there, Chief. I don't know. I don't like that it went to 10. I wish it stayed at 8, but maybe I'm a jerk.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it as a buff.
It's a side grade, right? It feels very side gradey.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a full lateral move. Yeah.
I guess with King Tide,
so
right?
basically,
you have to look at it in like Cephalopod
yeah.
King Tide terms, but at the same time, it's like, yeah.
All right, so let's move on. There's a few left here. So Service Ace used to be a 3-mana 3/3. Now it's a 2-mana 2/3. So it's 1 mana cheaper, but has 1 less attack. And that was the Paladin 2/3 minion. After this minion gains attack, reduce the cost of the highest cost card in your hand by 1.
There's a deck called Miracle Pally or Holy Pally that is using Myrmidon, if you remember Myrmidon. You can take this card and you can like buff it with like the 1 mana drinks, and it'll make something like Sea Shanty cost 2 less for every drink. So I think this will see some experimentation in Wild because there's a tier 3, tier 4-ish Wild deck that can use this. And so once you get 0 mana Sea Shanties, then you drop Smite, spin a minute, all hands on deck, and you play your 0 mana Sea Shanty, and all those Sea Shanty pirates are pirates, and now they have charge, and you can punch the opponent in the face for like 36 damage. So like, there is an application for this in Wild, but we'll have to see if it makes the list or not.
Yeah, for sure. I played for limited time with this deck when I was completing just some dailies, and I needed to do some Paladin and I needed to do some things, and I hit. It was one of those like play a bunch of miniaturize.
Yeah. Yep.
Card.
You're doing like the little lamplighters and stuff. Yep.
Yeah. And I put in. So I needed to do the miniaturize and I needed to do something else and I needed to play Paladin. So I was like, okay, when I need to do miniaturize, I always play Pally. And there was whatever the other requirement was. And I hit the like auto-complete your deck. So like, give me whatever. I don't care. I'm just going to do some dailies. And this was put into my deck. And I started noticing some extremely good benefits. I started buffing this thing and I started reducing my big boys in my hand. And I'm like, this is actually really cool. I was trying to just do my dailies and I'm playing it like, I don't know, 8 or 9x in standard or whatever. By no means extremely high ranked. I'm just sort of playing around, doing some dailies. And I actually won a couple games doing my dailies with this in my hand. Just reducing the highest cost card in my hand by 1. And it kept happening where it was getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And I was like, this is it. Like, there's probably a way better application. Like I said, this is an autocomplete that I had hit that it threw this card in the deck. And I'm like, this is dope. Like, I actually like this card. Right. And so I just thought that there's got to be, and I don't play a lot of standard, right? But there has to be a home for this at some point. And I like that they didn't change the mana cost, right? Because you're going to be buffing this anyway. Like, yes, they didn't take health away from it. If they took health away from it, it would be a big deal because you want this to be sticky because you want to keep buffing it, right? So they took the attack away. Cool. Honestly, no big deal in my head. Like, could have been a lot worse. And wait, it is cheaper. So I forgot. This is actually supposed to be a buff.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's okay.
So
it might see play. Yep.
All right, here we go. Twilight Medium was a priest minion, 6 mana, 5/6, is now 5 mana, 4/5. So we lost a health tick and an attack tick, and it is 1 mana cheaper. Any thoughts on this? This is what it's the taunt battle cry. Set the cost of the top card in your deck to 1. So this is like kind of like if.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, no. I was gonna say, yeah, in the format where you're reordering your deck, you can make whatever is coming out next 1. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Like, I think back in the day, if I was goofing off, I might play like Arana and Polkelt and run this in like a Cthulhu the Shattered Demon Hunter deck. I would absolutely do that. This looks to me like it could be a Reno Priest card, especially since Polkelt on 4, Twilight Medium on 5. You might see some experimentation with this. At 6, it was a little too expensive. 5 could make the difference. Wouldn't shock me. It has taunt. Like, it's not unfortunate. And Reno Priest right now is one of the most popular decks in Wild. The Chinese community thinks that it's the best deck, that it has a very flat matchup spread, and so they really like things that have a chance at beating anything that you play against, so it's seeing a lot of play. Those decks run over Planner a lot of times, which is that 3-mana 3/3, and you get to order your next 3 cards. So you could even over plan to have on 5 the Twilight Medium discount the card of your choice. So like some really interesting deck manipulation. I remember Clark Hellscream being like really excited for this and possibly fitting in combo decks to hit a specific combo piece. Like I think this is cool. I think it's a cool card, and they made it more playable. Cool. You buffed Raza Priest, but that's fine.
Full agrees on all front. I think it's definitely cool, and I guess we'll see. We'll see it eventually. I think if we don't see it right away, people are gonna play with it.
There's enough flex plots in Reno Priest. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, Nightshade Tea.
Yeah.
Sweet. So it was the 2 mana shadow spell for Priest that read, deal 3 damage to a minion, deal 2 damage to your hero. 3 drinks left. So do it 3 more times. Now it is 1 mana, deal 2 to a minion, 2 to your hero. 3 drinks left.
Looking pretty nutty in Reno Priest as a removal spell, and it's like you get to do it 3 times.
3 times.
Looking nutty there. I saw Corbett go off the deep end a little bit yesterday and is attempting to refine a Renathal aggro priest, where there's enough like good 1-drop pirates that you can run Thirsty Drifter, and you can run the Sauna, whatever, the new 5/5 that gets reduced every time you hurt yourself as a priest. And so like he's like, well, the pieces are there, and you probably dumpster aggro. I tried it, and it felt like absolute dog water. I don't know if he cooked it more. I don't think it's real, but like, this reduces Thirsty Drifter. This does like a lot of things in Priest right now that Priest kind of likes. And it is a shadow spell, which is always a plus in Wild. Don't be shocked. It's XL Renathal aggro Priest is probably, I'll be honest, it's probably a legend viable deck. But it's real bad. But you could win enough games with it. You could high roll enough with it, and there are enough pieces, and this is a big reason why people are even thinking about trying this buff. Because of the Thirsty Drifter, because of the Sauna, and going from there.
It's cheap. It's half the cost at this point. So, cool. 1 less damage, but I like it. All right, so the last one we have is a rogue minion, which is the Coveting Conman. So old Coveting Conman was a 4 mana 4/4 pirate. Replay the last card you played from another class. New is Battlecry. Replay the last card you've played from a non-rogue rogue class.
How do you like this in Paladin? Replaying Crusader's Aura, replaying Timeout, replaying Kangor's Endless Army, replaying Hand of a Doll, replaying like that. This actually like could have some application if you're willing to add, Liadrin the Tourist to your deck. And since we're already sort of doing that with like Holy Paladin anyway, Sea Shanty, like this could replay Sea Shanty. This could replay a lot of stuff that we kind of like. So, yeah, cool. That little text change definitely gives it a lot more life. And this being a 4-mana 4/4 that in theory can affect the board immediately. It's not like buttons where it's like, okay, and now I'm drawing cards from my hand.
Yeah.
This could add tempo, or this could like bring things back that you want to bring back. So yeah, good card. You might even see it in Reno Paladin.
Yeah, for sure. I love it when they try to give some of these potential for sure, and that's something that we could definitely see. Well, that brings us to the end of the news, Schmoopydady. Well, I was thinking that I could possibly ask you a question.
Sure.
Unrelated Advice with Schmoopydady.
All right, Schmoopydady.
Yes.
We were talking earlier, and I don't remember what triggered this, but I had to take my pen out and write down my question before I forgot about it. Yeah, we were talking about our children, and we were talking about technology.
Yes.
And I think that you and I were from a similar generation where we grew up with like technology is exponentially getting like more technical, right?
Yes.
Like in our lifetimes, things have changed a lot as compared to say in our parents' lifetime, that kind of thing. And so even at our age, we can be pretty tech savvy. We can figure out, I mean, for the most part, how to run this stream, right?
Sure.
That kind of thing. Edit the podcast, do that sort of stuff. At this point, there's all sorts of sounds running, different things. We've got all this stuff going on. We can manage to do that. And where I see it with my child, Mini Hydra, is he's 15, right? And he's still asking questions, right? And I'm still teaching at this point. When I was 15, I was showing my parents how to program the VCR because they couldn't figure out, what button did what, right? Like it was a mess. And so I guess my question here is, you have young children, right? And I'm sure they're extremely intelligent. They have you and Schmoopy Mommy as parents. Do you think that there is going to be a shift where maybe this possible next upcoming generation may get to the point where we revert to them teaching us everything about technology and they need to help us program our VCRs?
Wow, this is a really deep question. I think something that is going to is worth keeping an eye on is, I think the way AI is progressing, there's certain tasks like you ask students now, or even some teachers, right? It's like, okay, let's write a letter of recommendation. And so what you do is like you give the prompt, right? Like I know one teacher that does this. They give a prompt, and they are very good at giving prompts and like, getting something out, and then they take a look at the letter, and they don't just paste that and they say, okay, let's get going. They go in and they edit the letter and they change it, and they make it sound more like themselves, but like they take the body of the stuff that they would normally have spent time writing, and they have sort of outsourced that part to Chat GPT. And now instead of being more of a writer, you're more of an editor. And I think AI ultimately is going to do that for a lot of things. There's going to be a lot of skills that you might start questioning as like, well, why do we even bother covering that anymore? Like, for example, a struggle that I have in my classroom often is I try to show students by voicing out loud how I do it, quick math without using a calculator. Like, okay, so like we're doing like, let's say like 12 times 3. It's like, all right, guys, well, what number is 12 close to? That's nice and even. He'll be like, I don't know, 10? What's 10 times 3? 30. All right, so 12 times 3 should be kind of close to 30, right? It's going to be 30 plus some extra, right? And so I'll demonstrate those skills because, you know, there's a lot of engineering. Like if you're out in the field, you have to do quick math in your head. You don't have the exact numbers in front of you. You're just sort of just like totaling it up and spitting it out. And so I have a lot of students who would say, well, I have a calculator. Why do I need to memorize how to do math? The calculator is going to do it for me. And that's becoming a harder and harder question to sort of like, well, you need to because, right? It's a harder and harder question to defend as technology gets better and better. Why do I need to learn how to write when I have autocorrect that can help do things, or I have ChatGPT that can write my essay for me? So I think AI is going to start assimilating some roles and maybe shifting our skills to the point where, you know, well, I just, you know, you and me might be sitting there. We might be like, we just want to write an email. And instead what we're going to need is like, you know, Schmoopy's going to need to come over and be like, all right, Grandpa, let's figure out how to write a prompt for AI. And like that might be something that ends up changing. Like things might be changing in that way where just skills or skills and needs and focus might shift. And like we're not going to need to use a slide rule anymore, right? Like the skill for using a slide rule is gone. We're going to have to learn other skills. And that's where I think, you know, where they might be a little bit more coached up on us than we are.
Wiser words have never been spoken. And you heard that on
Born to be wild.
I will say that when I was in kindergarten, we did have, everyone had an abacus.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And that we learned how to do math on an abacus.